Hi. Welcome to The History House. I'm Amar Saeed and you are watching History of the World Part 3 on your favorite YouTube channel, The History House. Please watch the complete video. Do not forget to subscribe this channel and like video in order to get very important and interesting videos on daily basis. In first part we have discussed about the influence of climate on the history of the world, while in second part we have discussed about departures and the continuity. In this video we will discuss about European Middle Ages, America and Africa. The Middle Ages was the time from the fall of the Roman Empire until the middle of the 15th century. From 500 to about 800 there was some decline compared with the Roman civilization. European villages were often destroyed and looted by barbarians such as the Vikings. During the High Middle Ages, magnificent castles and large churches called cathedrals were built and important works of literature were written. In the later Middle Ages, there was a plague called the Black Death. The Black Death killed 1/3 to 1/2 of Europe's population. A system called feudalism was a very important part of the Middle Ages. In this system, the king was at the top of the social pyramid. The king gave land to the lord in exchange for loyalty. The lords were the next in the pyramid. The lords gave land, called a fief, to knights in exchange for loyalty and protection. The knights came next in the pyramid. Peasants were not part of the feudal system because they did not give or receive land. They worked on a lord's manor in exchange for protection. The Crusades were also fought during the Middle Ages. There is a theory that says the Crusades helped end the Middle Ages along with the Black Death, increased trade and better farming technology. Renaissance. The Renaissance started in Italy. Renaissance is a French word meaning rebirth. The Renaissance meant that people learned from the ancient Greek and Roman or classical cultures that had been forgotten for some time. Artists learned from classical paintings and sculptures. So they reinvented perspective and the art of freestanding realistic sculptures that had been characteristic in Greek and Roman art. Some famous Renaissance artists are Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. The Gutenberg printing press, invented by Johannes Gutenberg, was also developed during this time. The Renaissance was also a time of great achievements in science: Galileo Galilei, Francis Bacon, philosophy, Thomas More, and literature, Dante Alighieri, William Shakespeare. America. Maya civilization. What is known as the Classical period lasted from about 250 to about 900. During this time, many monuments were constructed. There are also many big inscriptions from then. In this period, the Maya moved to building large cities. This is known as urbanism. Many important intellectual and artistic developments happened in an area that is known as the Southern Lowlands. Like the ancient Greek, the Maya civilization was made of many independent city-states. Agriculture was important around these city-states like Tikal and Copan. The most important monuments are the pyramids they built in their religious centers and the palaces of their rulers. The palace at Cancun is the largest in the Maya area. There are no pyramids in the area of the palace. Other important things the archaeologists found include the carved stone slabs usually called stelae, the Maya called them teton, or tree stones. These slabs show rulers along with hieroglyphic texts describing their genealogy, military victories, and other accomplishments. In North America, they made Mississippian culture with the largest land field from around 800 CE to 1600. Trade with other civilizations. The Maya also had trade routes that ran over long distances. They traded with many of the other Mesoamerican cultures, such as Teotihuacan, the Zapotec, and other groups in Central and Gulf Coast Mexico. They also traded with non-Mesoamerican groups, that were farther away. Archaeologists have found gold from Panama in the sacred cenote of Chichen Itza. Important trade goods were cacao, salt, seashells, jade and obsidian. Sudden collapse. In the 8th and 9th century, the cities in the southern lowlands had problems, and declined. At the same time, the Maya stopped making big monuments and inscriptions. Shortly afterwards, these cities were abandoned. Currently, archaeologists are not sure why this happened. There are different theories. Either ecological factors played a role in this, or the cause of this abandonment was not related to the environment. Post-classical period and decline. In the north, development went on, from the 10th to about the 16th century. The influences from the outside left more traces in the Maya culture at that time. Some of the important sites in this era were Chichen Itza, Uxmal, and Coba. At some point, the ruling dynasties of Chichen and Uxmal declined. Afterwards, Mayapan ruled all of Yucatan until a revolt in 1450. The area then degenerated into competing city-states until the Yucatan was conquered by the Spanish. By 1250, there developed other city-states. The Itza maintained their capital at Tayazal. It ruled over an area extending across the Petén Lakes region, including the community of Etquixal on Lake Quexal. Post-classic Maya states also survived in the southern highlands. One of the Maya kingdoms in this area is responsible for the best-known Maya work of historiography and mythology, the Popol Vuh. The Spanish started to conquer Maya lands. This took them much longer than with the Inca or Aztecs, because there was no capital city. This meant that when they had conquered one city, this had little influence on the whole empire. The last Maya states were finally subdued in 1697. The Maya people did not disappear though. There are still about 6 million of them. Some are well integrated, others continue speak one of the Maya languages and uphold their cultural heritage. The Aztecs. The Aztecs built an empire in Central America, mainly in Mexico. The empire lasted from the 14th to the 16th century. They spoke the Nahuatl language. Their capital was Tenochtitlan. It was built on islands in a lake. Tenochtitlan was one of the greatest cities of the world in that time. The Aztecs believed in polytheism. Quetzalcoatl, feathered snake, Huitzilopochtli, hummingbird of the south, and Tezcatlipoca, smoking mirror, were the most important gods. Sometimes the Aztecs killed humans to please their gods. Between 1519 and 1521 the Spanish leader Hernán Cortés defeated the Aztecs and took their empire. Some Aztecs did not want to fight against the soldiers of Cortés, because they thought they were gods. Today many Mexicans have Aztec and other Native American forefathers. People still use Aztec symbols in Mexico. On the Mexican flag there is a picture of an eagle on a cactus with a snake in its mouth. This was an Aztec symbol. Also the name Mexico is an Aztec word. The Aztecs ate a lot of plants and vegetables that could be grown easily in the Mexico area. The main food that they ate was corn, which they called maize. Another food that they ate was squash. Aztecs also had a lot of harsh punishments for certain crimes. For the following crimes the punishment was death: adultery, wearing cotton clothes were only for the nobles, cutting down a living tree, moving a field boundary, making your land bigger, making someone else's smaller, major theft and treason. The Incas. The Incas were a civilized empire in western South America. The Incas are called a pre-Columbian empire. This means that their country was here before Christopher Columbus. They ruled parts of South America around what is now Peru for a little over 100 years, until the Spanish invasion in the 16th century. The Incan Empire, or Tawantinsuyo, meaning 4 regions in Quechua, only lasted for about 100 years as the arrival of the Spaniards in 1532 conquered them. Their main language was Quechua, but as the Incas were basically made up of many different groups there were probably many other different languages. Their capital was in the city of Cusco, or Cusco, in what is now southern Peru. Manco Capac founded the first Inca state around 1200. It covered the area around Cusco. In the 1400s, Pachacuti began to absorb other people in the Andes. The expansion of the Inca Empire had started. The Inca Empire would become the biggest empire in the Americas before Columbus. In 1532, the Civil War ended. During this time, the Spanish conquerors took possession of the Inca territory. They were led by Francisco Pizarro. In the following years the conquistadors managed to extend their power over the whole Andean region. They suppressed successive Inca rebellions until the establishment of the Viceroyalty of Peru in 1542 and the fall of the resistance of the last Incas of Vilcabamba in 1572. The Inca civilization ends at that time, but many cultural traditions remain in some ethnic groups as Quechuas and Aymara people. Africa. Ancient Egypt and Carthage are well-known civilizations of ancient Africa. But because there are not many written sources in large parts of sub-Saharan Africa, the history of Africa is not easy to write about. But with new techniques such as the recording of oral history, historical linguistics and archaeology knowledge has improved, not only for the empires and kingdoms of Ethiopia, Ghana, Mali, Nubia, Kush and Kerma. Thanks a lot for watching the History House YouTube channel. Please like this video and subscribe the channel in order to get very important and interesting videos on daily basis.